the Escape the 8-Bar Loop course. It's all about improvising, building scenes with clips in session view so you can jam and play and perform and end up with something in the timeline that you can mix for a final track. I'm not sure how the audio and video are coming through. Well, I'm kind of sure, but I want to wait for the screen to pop up so I can see your comments as always. So Dan Pratt, talking to you, man. I think you were waiting for this one. Thanks for asking about it. And thanks for everybody who's being so busy in the group and active. I really like all the interactions that are happening. We got Katie Toohill making a mix set from tracks in the track feedback section. And people, Taylor Lilly put up an album that he just released. Cloud Lane got a couple tracks published. There's a lot of good stuff happening, and I'm really happy to see it. So congratulations to everybody. There's my post. Okay, I can hear Dan Pratt, there you are. Give me a yes if you can hear me and hear the music and all that. And this time I'm gonna make sure I do go into screen share when I'm talking about live. Last week I did like 5 minutes of like this where I was like looking at the screen and I thought you were seeing Ableton and you weren't, so whatever. Here's the track. So I'm gonna use the lesson from Module 5 of Escape the 8-Bar Loop. So for anybody who's signed up for that course and downloaded the different LivePack projects, we're actually going to use the one from Module 5 where we hear those sounds, go through those scenes. I'll show you how I use some of the effects. And we're going to make a little music. So here I am. Oh, there's my Mixcloud thing. Boom. Here we are with the session. Now I opened this up literally right from open recent set. Oh, then I saved a copy of it. Okay, that's what I did. I opened it up right from the download. So this is exactly the same project that you get when you download the lesson. Module 5, effects and controllers. All right, but we're not actually going to go through the instructions in this workshop today. What do we do? Bleeps and sweeps. All right, so we looked at some effects and we looked at some using delay. We looked at some crash cymbals. Woo! Effects sends and returns with the Hypnotizer effects unit that I totally love. That's going to play a part today. Oh, there's a video link for this one. And then finally we go through and play through, which leads us to this section of song. So you know what? I'm going to delete the instructions. It's fine for you to do that with the session lessons after you learn the basic lesson. You can delete my audio track because you don't need to listen to me. And we're going to get into playing through this actual session. Andy May is here. Hey, Andy, how you doing? Thanks for that message about the email graphics. That was a little embarrassing, but super helpful to know that the graphics looked wrong. And here we have the actual session lesson. Oh, with the Law of the 12-inch from my friend Nikolash. So I'm going to play through this, and we're going to listen to what we get as kind of a performance type thing. I know this session is basically mixed already. We've got the bus groups happening up here. And what I did when I was building this song, I guess I might as well go ahead and call it a song. All these scenes right here have different sections, like drop 1, drop 2, different things happen. A build-up section. There's the peak, the after dub, and breakdowns. And I made these transition scenes in red so that I can get between different sections. So now what we could do is start at the top and launch every scene going down and play them all for 8 bars or whatever. When it feels right, go to the next scene. We could do that. Probably knowing me, I'm gonna, like play some of it and then say, oh, why don't we skip here? And I'll hit a transition and go to a different scene. You can see that we have different clips in every scene. And I named them like baseline 1, baseline 2, baseline 3, which gives me an idea that the song structure is coming from different baseline patterns. We got our kick drums, keyboard parts, all these drums in yellow. And I'm just kind of reviewing here. These colors are going with our bus groups. So the kick drum and the bass line are in the low bus. The instrument bus has bass doubler and keyboard solo. Let's hear some of these. Turn up my headphones a little bit. So we got the low bus with the kick drum and bass line. Little bass line and keyboard action in there. And our drums and risers are over here. And for a little preview, this Hypnotizer effects unit is something I use as a live instrument. So this is not like a reverb where you just put it on the drums and leave it there the same way the whole time. What I do is turn up the effects send, so when something goes to the Hypnotizer is going to catch it with the beat repeat. So let's see if I can do this right now. What I did was I sent that riser sound from track 19, I turned up the aux send, sent it over here to the Hypnotizer effects, and I grabbed it with a beat repeat, which is kind of cool because it's looping this sound, and I can filter it. But one thing I don't like is that it only got the left side, and it's sort of an unbalanced signal. That can happen because we have stereo effects sends and stereo effects returns in live. So let's make a little modification. Before I go through and start playing through this track, I want to drop a mono. I think I'm going to mono that effects unit with utility. So that way, anything that goes in is going to come out equally spread on both sides, and it's not going to throw my mix totally out of whack if I have some looping balance thing. Do I want to do it totally mono, or? Yeah, let's keep it moving and just do it mono. So that's a little update. I didn't build that in the original rack, but I just right now noticed that problem, and I have seen that before in some experiments. So let's do that one more time and see if that made a difference. There's our track 19 going to the Hypnotizer, beat repeats off, ready to catch it. The signal's gonna come in, hit this EQ for a little cutting out the bass and making it sound nice. Let's upgrade that delay. There's my riser. And there we have it looped. And it looks like it's still not... Oh, I had it at 17%. So then you'll hear things like that, and I have a feeling that resonance might be a little too high. These are my personal custom tweaks. You get to know all my secrets right now. And then we got the LFO working. And we can change our grid size and then turn off the beat repeat. So I'm basically using beat repeat like a sampler to do a fast-paced repetition of whatever goes into it. And anything that you turn up on the aux can go into your beat repeat or effects unit and become a little loop. And then we have a filter after it with an LFO modulator. So this is super fun. It's amazingly flexible. Anything you put into it can become more interesting on the way out. And it works great on vocals. It works, well, we'll fool around with it. Probably I'm going to upgrade this to the Echo plugin from Live 10. But the point of this whole lesson is how to take an improvised performance so that you don't lose what you did. Like, I could sit here and, you know, play around with my different clips and launch stuff and be like, oh, geez, what does it sound like if I do this clip and this? And this. Now just imagine right now I was at a show and there's people standing in front of me dancing, they're doing this thing, and I want to have, I don't know, I'm just totally grabbing clips all over the place from different scenes. I think I'll put in this little bleep and sweep sound. So now in real time, they're hearing these sounds and they're like, oh, it's cool. Now we're gonna have a crash. 1, 2. Like, whatever. You can always improvise with clips on the fly and just jam and make sounds come out, and people are gonna hear it in real time, and that can be a performance. But what if you have done the work like we did to build scenes that are organized with sounds that go through a progression, right? A progression that leads you to a peak, and it has breakdowns and you know, all kinds of fun stuff. Well, we can play through these scenes, and in the same way, the audience live will get the experience of hearing the music come out. But if I want to make this into a track that gets published, or like a mix set of a live set, or, you know, an album, and have like the perfect final mix version, I need to get it over here in the arrangement so I can have it from start to finish and go through and do my final automation and make it sound exactly right the way I want to. So to do that, and it's so easy, this is just a little tiny little trick. You hit the record switch. And we're off. And what I'm going to do right now is play through these different scenes. So we're in drop 1. I do not have my push set up. There we go. So notice that I already modified our form. I did not play the very first scene. I started with this intro. I did a little drop here. I skipped that scene. I hit the transition to let me get into drop 2. And now I'm ready to keep going and launch another scene. 2, 3, 4. And a new sound comes in. And check out what's happening over here. As we go, the record switch is on. Tracks are getting laid in there. And make sure this loop switch is off. You don't want that loop bracket on there because then you're going to overwrite all your other scenes as you're tracking. All right, new sound, new scene. New scene comes in. Next, I left a little clue that says, play this scene only 7 bars because the transition is going to come after that. So let's have that happen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 6, 2, 3, 4, 7, 2, 3, 4, 8, 2, 3, 4. I did that counting out loud so you know how I count bars and beats and measures. That's pretty standard in the music performance world, but I wanted to just make that clear. All right, that reverb was a little loud. I'm not sure I love this final mix, but that's okay. That's something we can adjust in the arrangement after we finish recording. So I'm gonna play through a couple more scenes and see what we get at the end. 7, 2, 3, 4, 8, 2, 3, 4. So we let it go through that build-up cycle. Now here we have a lot of crash cymbals going on, a lot of stuff happening. Must be the peak. Now I'm gonna look over here and think, okay, how long are these loops gonna go for? When is the time for the next section? I think it's time right now. Oh, I like this bass line. This is a modified bass line. It says mod, so I know something different happened there. 1, 2, 3, 4. That reverse crash told me it's time to go to the next scene. And let me tell you, I built this actual project, I think at the end of 2018. I first built it and then revised it in 2019. So I right now don't know exactly what's gonna happen next. I'm kind of going with the flow. All right, now we're in a breakdown. I think it might be time to do some hypnotizer. Yeah. Now that scene is automated. I didn't even expect that. I felt like it was time to play with the hypnotizer and the aux send was automated to give me that hypno feed. So let's keep the hypnotizer going. And see what I can do with it in this next scene. Now I'm gonna get my blue hand on the hypnotizer rack. Now we are way out in space. All right, I don't love the way I got out of that. I kind of felt like I wanted that glitch thing to end in a reverb swell and fade off into the distance instead of just stopping, but whatever. It's always fun to tweak some effects when you're doing a set or playing a show live, because you never know quite what's gonna happen. It might do something unsurprising. So now I got something else going into the effects unit and muted the dry signal. Gonna keep this little thing going through the transition into the next scene. That was a little smoother way to get out of that effects thing where I used the filter to make the sound disappear, and I changed the LFO modulation so it felt like it was speeding up. Bum, 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 bum. Now here's a sound that's playing in the session, but it's muted, and I'm not really sure what's going to come out, so I'm going to turn the volume down before I unmute. Because you never want to splash cold water on your audience. You know, you don't want to just unmute a channel if you don't know what's coming through it. Oscar's here, Jake Carter's here. What's going on? What's going on? The law of the 12-inch. Aha. Oh, that's cool. So it's like an ending section where the hi-hat came back in and it didn't just stop. The track was kind of getting towards the ending, but a little bit more of a hi-hat thing came in. It gave us something to do. Now I use this last transition section as a kind of thing where I was like, yeah, I'm done. I'm gonna fade us all down here. And there we go. Stop all clips. And here's our timeline still running. So I hit the space bar and stop. What did we get? Select all, loop. Select loop, double click in the overview. That is our track. Let's have a moment of silence. Let me know if you have any questions. I know I just sort of did a little tiny show. Looks like that is 8 minutes. Wow, an 8-minute dub. I didn't honestly get bored during that. There were a couple sections that maybe went on a little longer than they needed to, but I was playing, I was jamming, I was feeling the music, I was in the flow, I was kind of improvising with the scenes that we had available, and then of course talking to you while I was doing it. So now, when you want to hear what happens, it's so cool. You can sit back, press play, and start digging your mix and be like, oh, you know, what has to change? What should I do differently? Like, what was wrong? What are the mistakes? Do I want to automate anything differently, or do I want to just adjust the mix and like bring that down a little bit or something? Or, you know, maybe go in later and automate like mute a bus group and drop it back in to add even more interesting fun stuff and more effects tweaks. Maybe I'll go and add a new effects return with another reverb. Reverb. And look at that, the whole thing is coming out just the way I played it. I kept all the fun stuff in there. I can do automation, expand all these tracks at the A key. Now I can see my automation fields. You know, hit my pencil tool up, draw some little automations or whatever. This is what makes Ableton absolutely the coolest program in the world to play with. Let me go back on camera here and have a little camera moment. You couldn't see me while I was doing this, but I was triggering scenes on push as well as using the knobs for my effects control. And then I was mouse clicking around like you saw on screen because I'm kind of teaching with it. If I was actually doing a show, I would probably have this guy locked to the Hypnotizer effects unit, so only this is controlling the Hypnotizer. That way, I can have the knobs up here on my push be for the aux sends. So without even touching the mouse, I could send any channel into the effects unit, grab it right here, hit the beat repeat, start playing around with the filters and the LFOs and everything, and I don't even have to click into the Hypnotizer to activate the push knobs. You see what I'm saying? I wanted to be able to have, I want to have a dedicated control only for that effects unit, so no matter what else is going on, I can grab a sound, keep tweaking it, hit here, flip through different scenes, keep that effects loop going across multiple scenes, which makes it a really fluid build-up transition thing. Comments. Cool. I'm just checking to see if there's any questions or anything like that. And the fun part is that you get to have the option to make a perfect technical mix after this whole performance. Like when we were doing live electronic music back with hardware back in the day, if you had, I keep saying it was like this, we'd have like your drum machine here, like an Electribe or a sampler with a sequencer in it, or an MPC 2000 with that little tiny screen like this, and you'd be playing through your patterns and sequences and songs from your hardware. And then you'd have your synth, and you could tweak some knobs right there. And then you'd have your Mackie mixing board with 16 channels, and you'd be tweaking over here and doing some EQ tweaks and have an effects unit be up here. I actually had this little effects unit in my live rig when I was performing in like 2001 with this little thing. It's a little reverb, and you could like switch reverb patterns and do your input-output volume, and I would have it right up here on my mixing board and like hit the auxes and everything. But the point is, if you made a bad mistake during a performance like that, you had very, very few ways to edit because you would be recording it into a 2-track cassette deck or a computer program with a 2-channel audio interface, like Audacity is or something like that. You didn't have the option to do multi-track recording or, God forbid, automation afterwards. You had to practice and practice, press play and start, and if you messed up, you'd have to start over, which was kind of cool because you'd be doing it for 7 hours, but it was hard. It was hard to make really good sounding pro mixes. It was hard to go to a show and do a performance that was going to be awesome and deliver a great experience every time. Live electronic music has always been experimental, and you don't want to blast your audience with noise or feedback or crappy sound, or even worse of all, if you build up a track and then it never drops and you're like, my mix is screwed, I have no more headroom for the kick drum and the beat is never going to drop. That's probably the worst of all, because they were like, where's that kick drum? And you're like, it's already up all the way, I can't turn it up anymore, and your mix is redlining and the amps are redlining, and you can't give anybody that pulsing thump because you just ran out of headroom from a bad mix. That sucked. So now with Session View in Ableton, we can have all that creative exploration of exploring, experimenting, tweaking, playing around with the song form, muting, unmuting, trying different patterns. All that stuff can happen live. And then when you're done, you record it into the arrangement and you can go back and fix stuff. You can fix your gain staging, you can fix your effects sweeps. All that kind of thing can get edited and updated so that you can export a really great stereo mix that's going to sound good and feel good and be fun and not be 8 minutes long. I don't know how many people make 8-minute tracks these days. I'll probably make a version of this that's not 8 minutes long just for listening and fun. But I'm glad I had the chance to run through it and teach with everybody. So if you have any questions, let me know. I'm here for a little minute. And it's time for some coffee. I want to play through what we did and maybe talk about a couple other things. But I'm going to bring that down a little bit. Turn my headphones down. See if I missed any questions or anything. Pew! I like those risers and the bleeps and sweeps thing. There's the Andy May comment. Maybe while this is playing, I'll do one more quick look at where you can get Escape the 8-bar loop. Because I like showing off the members site. This is getting to be a lot of fun. There's been an amazing response since I went to this. There we go. Now you can see it. See, I remembered. Since I went to this pay what you want model, it's been absolutely incredible how many people are coming in, taking new lessons, making small donations, and paying something for it. And I'm totally happy with that. Like, it's really cool. There's very few people, like a couple of people were like, oh, I'm gonna download everything in one day and then never do any lessons. And that doesn't really hurt me, but it's just like, I don't think people who do that, I honestly don't think they're getting very much out of it. So that's why I would rather you take one lesson at a time, use the crap out of it, get as creative as you possibly can, and make some music that you share with the group and come in and ask for feedback on it, because that's how you make progress, and that's what makes the whole thing work better. So inside the member site, here's Escape the 8-bar loop. You can learn more about it. Oh, my buffer size, I'm so sorry, that sound is not working for me right now. We're at the climax of track 2, ow. Oh my god. Alright. A little bit of a crisis there. So this is the member site. You come in here, you go down to the bottom, a little video, a little stuff about what's happening there. And you can grab this. Original price was $249. You can do it for only $49 right now, or 2 payments of $25. I took off the 0 payment because honestly, there's so much in this course. It's worth a little bit of money to do all these hands-on modules and get the whole interactive program. So that's where that is, and we're gonna do a couple more things with Escape the 8-bar loop this week. I wanna just basically show you some of the sessions that I'm working on. Here I am. I went through all my unfinished tracks and I put together a folder of the sessions I wanna finish and have an album done by the end of this quarantine period, whenever that's gonna be. So what I'm gonna do is take these sessions, build them the way I really wanna do, and then I'm gonna go live and show you what I'm doing and point out exactly where all these different principles come into play. So how did I organize my sessions? How did I make my clips extended into develop the full ideas from each one? Make the clip stacks, make the building blocks, make the transitions, get the effects running, finally have all my scenes developed, like, you know, the sections of the track, and then go live and play through it and make it an actual song. The reason I want to do that is because the next step is to talk about mixing. Why did I EQ this sound this way? Why did I decide to use compression right here? How did I get my gain staging to make an awesome 2-track mix that really bumps when you turn it up loud? In order to teach all those things later, I need to have a couple of different tracks that are pretty well done so we can hear the peak part where it's all really loud and the intro where it's quiet. And you know, I want to have some good teaching material to go through. So I think I'll spend a couple of days building out tracks. This part's cool right here. And then we'll go into mixing maybe next week and we can do some specific technical stuff. Anyway, curious about what does a blank session look like for you? Do you mean a brand new session before I do anything? I was thinking of ways to even further streamline my workflow. Preset, but groups generically. Preset the structure on the clip launch and the masters and everything. My blank sessions, my template session is, it's nothing. It's like the default Ableton project. I really add everything from scratch. When I want bus groups, I make new audio tracks and just quickly set up the input output to make them into, you know, container things. I really don't have anything in a template session because maybe I'll show you what my version of templates are. So here I am in live. Really the biggest place I use templates is in my effects units and instruments. So if you went to my user library, in my audio effect racks, it's like, this is all my custom audio effects stuff. You can see I have like, oh, vocal hypnotizer. That's the hypnotizer effects for vocals. Vox guide ducking, that's for sidechaining vocals in an overdub, like a radio show would be. Sub bass rack, sub bass exploration unit. Vox guide strip, that's for recording my lessons. Podcast sidechain, like Patty D radio strip for a show I did. Notch EQ rack, noisy basement vocal, Mixotexture spring reverb. These are fun. Oh, make space for bass. Okay, so here's some instruments that I made in the Make Space for Bass course, which we're gonna look at maybe end of April. That's more about like kick drum and sub bass sidechaining and EQing and all the things you do to get your low end working tight. Ooh, mono sub bass. Some client project, Louis Valencia Dream mastering. The Knots Glitcher. Like, instead of having a template of channels and labeled channels, like titles and stuff, I just go through and make all kinds of custom stuff. Basic mastering, bandpass filter effects. I'm just getting ideas just looking at these. And then my instrument racks, same thing. I save specific sounds from tracks like the Fog Pad, oh, you know, whatever, the Doors drum rack. That's not the Doors, the band, that's the drum rack made from actually slamming doors. Bells, fuzz bass, bassline jiggler, float pad. There's some dates on there, June 2019, ping lead, slapback, arc glitch. Swooshes. Some of these I'm like, what do these sound like? LFO sound design. Okay, I kind of have an idea what that's going to be. The main gain drum rack. So for me, customizing a project is much more about remembering a cool effects unit or a cool instrument, grabbing that and dropping it into a track. And everything else I just use key commands. Like if I want a new audio track, I go Command T and it appears. And you know, creating a track and saving things doesn't, like all my sessions are so different, I never really know what audio channels I want or what MIDI instruments I'm gonna need. So I don't bother trying to save that as a template, but I want to be able to find the ones that I remember, like what was that cool sound from that session? Oh, it's in my user library. And I grab it and throw it in there. And that's how I keep stuff going. And there's our little riser for the end. Ooh, that means I just talked for 8 minutes. I just saved that in case you're wondering what I'm doing. Doop, doop. Command S. So Andy, thanks for asking questions. Thanks for being here. Dan Pratt, I love the enthusiasm, and everybody else, thanks for being part of Mixitecture. Hey, stop. Last note, Katie Truehill is doing a mix set with tracks from our group. So if you want to have your music in her mix set, and she's a pretty interesting DJ. She goes full range with anything from music, period, that feels good. I think she puts it into mix sets and makes them work. I don't want to speak too much of what she does because she does her own thing, but I'm excited about that. So that's going on in the group. I'm going to get off this live video and get back into track comments and things. I didn't do very many comments last week at all. I feel bad about that, but I'm excited for more this week. And that's all. Yeah, you know the drill. This is going to be on replay soon. Drop me a comment if you have a question. I'll be happy to answer it pretty soon. And for anybody who's watching on YouTube, I do the live chat in the Facebook group so I can be in one place and really handle all the comments. So you can watch it on YouTube, but come in the Mixitecture Facebook group for the chat. Tomorrow, more of escaping the 8-bar loop in session view, different effects units, and more time for Q&A. So bring your questions. All right. And broadcast. Boop.